Rob Reiner is found dead in his home with his wife, with his son being the prime suspect in all of this. We're going to talk about this and some of the... I'm going to tell you right off the bat, folks. You MAGA folks are not going to like this very much because I'm going to tell you about the stupidity that our president has put forward on this one. And I understand the argument that the MAGA people are coming back with this one here. But I'm still going to come back out and tell you how absolutely asinine the truth was around the world. And I'm not talking about the truth in the regular sense. I'm talking about Truth Social, everybody. We'll talk about that. What happened there and what's going on with this. In other news, a man from my home state was briefly detained after a large mass shooting at Brown University that left, I believe it was 11 dead at the final count. We're going to talk a bit about that and the fact that they still don't know who actually did this. Doesn't that make you feel all warm and fuzzy? Friends in Rhode Island. We'll talk about that, what's going on there, and what happened with this. And, you know, since we're talking about people dying, we might as well just talk about what happened in Bondi Beach, too, because our news media certainly stopped talking about that one in a hurry, as some members of the Religion of Peace decided that they didn't like the Hanukkah celebration, so they decided they were going to go back and do something about it. So we'll go over that and what happened there, and, well, really why this one disappeared out of the news. And lastly, before we head out of here today, I do want to talk just a bit about what's going on in Venezuela, because we're sitting here on a major will they, won't they, on whether or not we're going to go down the old Bush route and go back to war. So we'll talk about that and what's happening there. It is going to be all of this and more over here on Contemporary. So strap yourselves in, grab some wings or something. I guess Banning is going over to Wild Wings, and maybe he'll bring me some back all the way from New York City. But we'll talk about that and what's going on with that. But otherwise, we will see you here on the other side of the break. What does the Fox say? I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. The absolute genius of being able to go back and make a coherent beat out of the sounds of birds, even of a great horned owl. I enjoy that very much, and I always will. It'll always be a thing for me, and yeah, that's gonna be that. Good afternoon. Well, technically in Central Time, and if you're in Mountain or Pacific, it's still morning, but good afternoon. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have a lot to go over here today, partially because we were not here last week. I did not know if I was going to wind up bringing a member of the family to the hospital last week, so I just kept myself on availability on Thursday and said, yeah, we're gonna hold. It was a slow news week last week too, admittedly. There was not a lot going on. I was actually kind of excited because I was looking at that thinking to myself, hey, we might have an hour and a half stream. This might be like daily Contemporary at the point that we're at here. But no, that did not wind up being the case, and we're here. And now we've got a regular length contemporary, because now we get to throw on all the fun crap about going and talking about Rob Reiner. Hey, we might be going to war. Is this what you voted for, MAGA? I will come out and say it's what I voted against, because I thought that she was going to do something like this. I mean, we knew Hillary was going to. The Brown University thing, that's interesting to me, based on the fact that they went and pointed the finger right at the person from Wisconsin first, and my experiences with New England makes that not a surprise to me, honestly. That's not something that actually... When I saw that it was a person falsely accused from Wisconsin, I said, yeah, that tracks, just with the experience that I had when I lived out there. And hey, apparently the FBI broke up a New Year's terror attack or attempt as well. So, yeah, lots and lots and lots of stuff going on here today, and we're going to try to get through it here. Little Ed Jr. is taking a nap, and she decided that she did not want to take a nap yesterday, so we're running on borrowed time here right now, but borrowed time is the way that we like to do things around here. So let's get down to it, and let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as Overruled and Crimeland with Katie Zed. Go check her out. Friend of the show, somebody who I've been to her house. She hasn't been to mine yet, but that's because it's 13 hours away. But hopefully we'll get that rectified at some point here in the near future. And yeah, we'll go on with that, and let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with our finance for the morning, and I've actually got a little bit of stuff on that too, because finance was a little bit all over the place, and it actually was the topic of a lot of our major news going on right now. Looks like we had a very, very weak jobs report, but core CPI might actually still hold the markets up at this point, so lots and lots of different stuff going on here. Looks like it's yo-yoing around today. Let's go ahead and get our news scene up here so you guys can see what's going on here. Let's check in with the live chat. Listen to the woods. The bot he's gonna go take a little bit of a timeout. He's gonna lose 5 minutes of his life, and if he wants to come back, he can. All right, Palm is here, who is next to me, by the way, so you actually might hear some voice coming in. Oh, we might even get a face reveal. She is doing work right next to me, so thank you for that. Stream Hub World has got a confused face on. That's over on Kick. That's a new face. Barbara Corcoran, I don't know the reference to that one, by the way. Goats and Scarves is here. Inescapable Maggot VU. Would you like many viewers? Well, I would. That's why I do this every day. I don't know that I want to go that direction, though. Nezhna.com. That sounds Russian. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Talking about Rob Reiner, Goats and Scarves says it was Nick in the kitchen with a candlestick. Luke Wee 6994 says I get to catch you live today. Goats and Scarves talking about the great horned owl who HOO could have that talent. Tom's head has been hurting. Yep. Looks like we might have an appointment for that coming up in a few days. So if we need some prayers, we will ask for them in the Discord. The bot took a little time out. I've never seen Shark Tank. That's why I don't understand that one. Where did the bot go? Luke Lee says hi, Palm. Palm says need to be everywhere to monitor the spam peoples. We need more spam. We definitely need more spam in this house.
We do.
I love
Just inventory the pantry. We have no spam in it.
Which is weird because there was a while when I still lived at the old place where every time I went to the grocery store, I'd grab a can of spam.
Why do you stop? Maybe that's why I'm dating you, specifically because you picked up spam.
Spam is delicious.
You didn't like it. I never had it before I met you, so. And you never had a fluffernutter till you met me.
Yeah, I tried that the other day. That was pretty good. I'd never heard of that before. I might have heard of it before, but I'd never eaten it. It's better with cream cheese. Just saying. All right, let's talk about our markets here today. The markets are kind of doing a little yo-yo thing right now. They started the day up. approaching a new high, which we did have a new record high earlier on in the week. They approached again to get back to that new high. Then they dumped off to the previous close. And now they are back up and toppling back down, sitting currently at 48.041.65. That is up 1/3% on the day today. I've already picked my finance articles today, so we don't have to go back and see what it is that Google wants us to look at right away on the day. Because we're going to start with Market Watch. Stock market today, the S&P and the Dow strive to break a 4-day losing streak, and the Nasdaq called higher as Micron results lift tech sentiment, CPI inflation data due, Nike earnings on tap. So a few things going on today, and maybe I should have archived this because Market Watch doesn't want us to use their stuff. How dare they? I don't pre-read this stuff, but we can read out of IBD instead, and there's some stuff to go on with that instead. They'll let me read their stuff. Dow futures, Micron jumps on earnings after Oracle leads AI stock sell-off from Ed Carson. Dow futures were a little changed overnight, along with the S&P and the Nasdaq. Micron jumped on strong earnings and guidance, lifting some other memory-related plays. The stock market retreated Wednesday, with AI plays broadly selling off as Oracle struggles to finance a $10 billion with a B dollar AI data center project. Wonder where they're going to put that. With a $10 billion price tag, I don't think it's going to be Mexico. Just saying. Because I think the same facility down there would be costing the millions. The Nasdaq fell from the 50-day, while the S&P 500 undercut that level. Nvidia, Broadcom, Celestica, and Vertiv were notable losers, along with previously resilient GE Vernova and Comfort Systems. On the futures, which were well past at this point, the futures fell 0.15 versus fair value. The S&P was flat and the Nasdaq rose 0.2, which, as we can see from the chart that we looked at before, that is no longer the case. Crude oil futures rose less than 1%, which means that, hey, we're going to actually probably keep these gas prices around for a little bit longer. That would be nice. For Micron earnings easily beat fiscal Q1 with revenue jumping 57%, also topping the memory chip giant, guided sharply higher for Q2. Micron jumped in extended action. Shares at a record $264.75 on December 10th, but have been consolidating for the past month, falling back to the 50-day line on Wednesday's regular session. SanDisk climbed solidly overnight, while Federal memory plays Seagate, Western Digital were up modestly, not technology, digital. Memory-exposed chip equipment makers such as Lam Research and Applied Materials gained slightly. Oracle on Wednesday confirmed that Blue Owl Capital will not be backing a $10 billion data center project, adding to concerns about the software giant's efforts to finance its massive spending needs to fulfill a massive backlog. Oracle tumbled 5.4% to a fresh 6-month low. I still don't understand the AI thing, and I know, yes, it's going to change the world, they tell me. It's going to change the way we do everything. It's going to change this. It's going to change that. It's going to change everything. Apparently, I'm serving out makeup ads. Magic cream. Somebody who watches my stuff wants magic cream. Who knew? But back to AI. As far as AI goes, I have no interest in doing something like that. And that's one thing here, and I know that I have something on things I like, things I hate. If we get down that far onto the stack today, talking about the fact that the AI data center, the AI podcast that the Washington Post tried to put out just fell directly flat and dead flat, and good riddance to it. Yeah, it's... And I know that Bridget Fedesi was talking about this too, and they actually made an AI thing to say that she was never going to go back and do AI. I'm not even going to do that. The only AI you are going to see on this channel is your host. That's it. Because, yeah, there's enough to say without it all being out and corporatized that we don't need to go back and add to any of all of this. So that's where we're going to stay at that. I don't begrudge anybody that wants to use it. I think it's making college kids lazy, but I mean, weed and beers have been doing that since the 60s. So really nothing's changed at that point. Let's see. Micah for Love. Hello, we are the Kick Pulse team, helping Kick streamers reach their KCIP goals for real growth and genuine community engagement. No bots or fake viewers, only real followers, chatters, and viewers. Contact Discord, Kick Pulse 5, WhatsApp, with a WhatsApp number, and Telegram at Kick Pulse. What do you think? Should we get genuine viewers, Pom? We could message them on Discord. We're both on Discord right now. Genuine followers.
I can message lots of people on Discord.
Oh, and they did it twice even. Well, Michael Love, you can take 5 minutes and think about what you've done. Time out. Alright, back to Oracle. The big hyperscalers, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Alphabet, have largely been funding their AI capital spending surge via their massive cash flow. But Oracle fears once again weighed on many AI data center plays. Nvidia gave up 3.8%, Broadcom 4.5%, AMD 5.3%, Celestica 4.5%, and Vertiv 6.7%, falling further below their 50-day lines and often undercutting recent lows. GE Vernova dove 10.5%, wiping the AI energy plays December 10th gap up bullish guidance. And shareholder returns, Comfort Systems plunged 8.75% below its 50-day line after holding the 21-day line for a few sessions just below buy points. So it's not a good day to have AI stock apparently right now. This is not official financial advice. This is just watching the trends. If you want official financial advice, always check with your financial advisor, not somebody who yells into a microphone.
So don't use Dave Ramsey?
That's fair. No, actually, I wouldn't say use Dave Ramsey either, because he doesn't know your specific household situation.
Okay. So use him if he's not yelling into a microphone. Got it.
Yeah. And use them for generalized stuff, but yeah, just the specific stuff for your household, you should be more cautious with that. Quest Fanning says, good afternoon, not going to be able to chat as much today as I'm at the office with colleagues, but we'll share. Have a great day. Thank you. I think we just ran out of time. Might have to throw the Ed Talk screen up here for a second, because I might have to haul something into this room. Alright, I do want to talk a bit about what is going on with our economy, the Daily Wire. This was a last week article. This was something that I had up for last week's stream. President Trump celebrated the Dow Jones Industrial Average hitting an all-time high on Thursday morning. This was last week, of course, arguing the polls showing a poor approval rating on his handling of the economy are fake. The Dow reached 48,661.94 shortly after the opening bell on Thursday, while the Nasdaq dropped slightly. The Dow has climbed steadily since late April after a dramatic plunge following the rollout of Liberation Day tariffs. Trump argued the new record high for the Dow is proof that his economic policies are working.
When did you last eat? Timing.
Right before nap.
Okay.
According to recent polls, Trump is losing the approval of many Americans on his handling of the economy. The president's approval rating on the economy has fallen to 31%, according to the survey the Associated Press released on Thursday. That was down from 40% who approved of his handling of the economy in March. Another poll released by Gallup in November showed Trump's approval rating on the economy sitting at just 36%. Trump has focused much of his attention on boosting the American economy during his second term, including imposing massive tariffs on countries throughout the world and cutting taxes for many Americans through the Big Beautiful Bill. Trump has also pressured the Federal Reserve to drastically lower interest rates to give Americans more financial room to buy a house, which is the stupidest way to run the economy that I can honestly think of. And again, I look at a lot of this here. I watch what's going on with Trump. I watch what it is that he's doing. And I have to come back and agree with the leftoids on this one here. And that, well, they say the stock market is the economy when it's winning and Biden is in office or Obama is in office. But when it's winning and a Republican is in office, oh, the stock market's not the economy. It's not an indicator of the economy. Well, no matter who's in office, it's not an indicator of the economy. Now, it is an indicator of where very rich people think the economy is going to go. This is true. But, I mean, your average workaday, like you and me, we're not sitting here and doing our day trading back and forth to try to maximize our portfolios for retirement. We have people for that. Usually they're supplied through our company and our company's 401k. And everything goes off to a mutual fund. We're not sitting here saying, ooh, Nvidia's going to go up. Let's go back out and buy this. So very rich people who control this stuff for other people, yes, they are 100% into this. And there's a reflection on the economy that I can also come back and that I can see based on how many people are either losing jobs or needing emergency funds where they're pulling money out of their 401ks, because that does come back out of the markets. But for the vast majority of what we see on the Dow, on the NASDAQ, on the S&P, it's what the Elon Musks of the world are doing. It's what the Bezoses of the world are doing. It's what the owner of your company is doing, not necessarily what the workaday in your company is doing. So, no, the stock market itself is not an indicator of where our economy is going. It's a good signal, and honestly, when we start to see stuff up, we can usually expect to see some level of hirings going on, because that's people investing in companies that will hire. So that is again, it's an indicator of where people think it's going to go, not necessarily where it's at right now. With that also being said, I still say and I say this as somebody who's bought a house and wants to go back and refinance when everything goes back and hits the basement, which I do think it is going to do in this administration at some point. But with that being said, to base your economy solely on trying to fix your interest rate so people can go back out and buy a house are going to put the housing market in a crisis that's going to make 2008 look like a fucking cakewalk. We're not in the morning commute, I can say it this time. We already have, well, at this point we don't have a lot of people, and a lot of people are pulling their houses from the market because nobody's bidding on them. I mean, this isn't like the BlackRock times under the pandemic. But if you drop that interest rate to nothing, people who bought their houses in the top of the market, yes, they are going to be able to do something and refinance, especially if they don't want to move or anything. But you're suddenly going to have a bunch of people competing over houses that have been on the market forever, and now they're going to start going $100,000 over asking again. So I don't necessarily agree with the direction he's going with this. Now, contrary to popular belief on some, he did an okay job the first time. They spent way too much money at the federal government level, which was the reason I wasn't going to vote for him the second time. But he did until the pandemic again roiled the world. He did an okay job the first time through. Maybe I'm looking at this a little bit short-sightedness, obviously. And I can see some problems with this, but I also, I know that we have a history of stuff happening well too. So I'm in a bit of wait and see mode, but I'm looking at some of these things and I don't see things going well. Let's grab one from NPR. This one is from this week. The U.S. just added 64,000 jobs in November, a sign the labor market is slowing, which, by the way, was one of the indicators that Jerome Powell wanted to see in order to bring rates down. So this could be some good news. Let me rephrase that, to bring rates down organically, not artificially. Ed Jr., everyone. The job market continues to show a sign of cooling. U.S. employers added just 64,000 jobs in November, according to a delayed report from the Labor Department Tuesday, while the unemployment rate rose to 4.6% from 4.4% in September. That's the highest unemployment rate in more than 4 years. The jobs report was initially set to come out earlier this month, but the government's ability to monitor the job market was hampered by the 6-week federal shutdown. The delayed job tallies for October and November, both of which are released on Tuesday. The report showed the U.S. saw a net loss of 105,000 jobs in October. That was led by a large drop in the federal workforce, as 162,000 government workers who'd taken the buyouts earlier in the year were officially dropped from the payrolls. So that in and of itself, I would say, would be a let's not panic mode right now, based on the fact that that is a bunch of people coming off the government payroll and looking at some of the jobs that are out there and have been out there for a while. We have all the bots coming in today, you guys. Don't VKEGYRDFGJTL1072. If you want to save on food, I found a Discord server that gets you discounts on DoorDash and free delivery. They have a lot of vouchers, so you can be sure it's not a scam. Yeah, that's what makes me sure that it's not a scam. Here's the invite if you want. Discord with a space in it. To try to stave off the bots. Or I'm sorry, yeah, it would be the bots. The ones that go back and get rid of stuff. I got this feeling DONT is about to go into timeout. He gets to go think about what he did. Furloughed federal workers were unable to conduct their usual survey of households in October, so the unemployment rate for that month remains unknown. Healthcare and construction were among the few sectors to add jobs in November. Healthcare added about 46,000 jobs, while construction added 28,000. But manufacturing continued to struggle with a loss of 5,000 jobs in November, after a loss of 9,000 in October. Meanwhile, leisure and hospitality cut 12,000 jobs last month because, well, I hate to say it, but right now people don't have a lot of cash to go out with. And that's the hard part about all this. Concerns about the labor market have been building, leading the Federal Reserve to lower its benchmark interest rate last week for the third time since September. It's a labor market that seems to have significant risks. Fed Chair Jerome Powell warned people care a lot about that. That's their jobs, that's their ability, if they get laid off, or if they're entering the labor force to find work. So that's really important to people. So, a few things to watch for there. Just a couple more on the finance sector. Job growth beats expectations. Unemployment rate at 4.6%. We're going to hold off on that one. But an interesting one that actually did come across my table. This is not one that I sought out. But this was one that came through the Discord to me. And really, honestly, when I look at this, this is the kind of thing that's going to make it harder for people to step up into the economy as well. It's not necessarily going to show warning signs for the major economy on the whole, but it is going to show where there's going to be a stagnation of the entry to the middle class. From Reuters, U.S. jobless rates for blacks and teens surges in November. I know the person who posted this in the Discord, and I know that he's probably looked at this and had a different intention when it was posted in there, but this is an important statistic that we do have to look at. The unemployment rate for two U.S. groups that are often the most vulnerable to job loss in a softening economy, blacks and teenagers, surged to the highest levels in more than 4 years in November. Labor Department data showed on Tuesday the jobless rate for blacks hit 8.3% in November, the highest reading since August of 2021. After standing at 7.5% in September, according to the BLS. The rate for teens shot up to 16.3%, the highest level since August of 2020, from 13.2% in September. I would really actually like to have a look historically at what some of these statistics were when I was a kid, because I know that it wasn't a huge market for teens when I was in my teens. I know we were starting to get to that point where a lot more parents were telling their kids, just stay home, let us take care of everything so you can focus on your studies. I didn't have that luxury, but I know that that's been growing since then as well, so I would not be surprised to see that when in 2001, per se, when I was 17, when I turned 17, if that rate was like 8 something, whereas we're looking at 16 and 13% now. The figures were included in the employment report for November that had been delayed by the 43-day U.S. government shutdown in October-November. Unemployment rate data for October was not collected because of the shutdown. The overall U.S. unemployment rate rose as well, climbing 0.2 of a percentage point to 4.6% last month, the highest level since September of 2021. The outsized jumps in the rate for blacks and teens caught the eye of economists as a possible warning sign. The unemployment rate rose to the highest since 2021. But it's risen considerably for more for black workers than for teenagers, demographic groups whose unemployment rates tend to be leading indicators of the outlook for the broader job market, said Bill Adams, chief economist for Comerica Bank. The jump in the rate for blacks was led by a near doubling of joblessness among black teens to 30.7%, the highest level since May of 2020 during the early months of the pinko-pox pandemic. Meanwhile, the jobless rate for black men rose to 7.5%, the highest level since September 2021, but the rate for black women fell for the first time since June to 7.1%. So, this is going to be something to watch for as we go into the next year. And this is blinking warning signs to me. Now on the other side of it, on the good news side of it, because we're not going to be doing black pill on this one. Mic is too soft, you said? Yeah, I'm not hitting peak on this right now either. I wonder what's going on with that. Let me look at this. I can take the music down some though. 100%.
On-air production. Music's too loud. Fix the music.
I fixed the music. Let me look at my audio settings here. I want this over here.
Ed Jr. is not loud enough. That's my opinion.
Properties.
On-air production, everyone.
I'm going to take this up just a little bit to see where it jumps to. And yeah, I wonder if her picking up while she was crying it's changing my settings on it too. I know that happened to me once while I was kind of strumming on my guitar while I was on a Zoom call. And then when I would talk afterward, it would just crack everyone's ears. So, possibly. Alright. Gas prices. KION. Gas prices decline in most states, rise in others ahead of a holiday travel. This is a Stacker article. During the biggest travel week of the year, the chance of flight delays paired with declining gas prices in many states prompted many families to drive their Thanksgiving destinations. However, gas prices in some areas increased substantially, even outpacing general inflation. So for those crossing state lines, paying attention to gas prices can help travelers save money, particularly when prices swing from $2.50 to $4.59 a gallon depending on where you are. Well, I got a simple solution for that. Don't go to California. That's easy enough. In western Wisconsin, where I live, I am seeing in the 230s. It's getting there. It's up in Oregon. There's probably some municipal and some regular taxes to go along with that. Colorado, they're dropping $2.50 a gallon in Oklahoma, and this is a December 10th article, so this is from last week. Californians are paying the most for gas. That's not the headline, that's the name of the magazine. The price of a regular gallon is now $4.59 in California. That's after a 3.3% increase from a year ago, putting California in the sixth largest price increase. Hawaii has the second most expensive gas at $4.44 a regular gallon, followed by Washington at $4.19. I can give an excuse to Hawaii, though, because literally everything that goes to Hawaii has to go on a ship. And that gets expensive. You know, we can do stuff over the road here in the mainland, but and I would have to ask Cat Pants too, what she saw when she used to live in Alaska, how that went with that too, because yeah, anything that went to Alaska had to get shipped. I guess they had oil locally, but it still had to go get refined, and then they did have pipelines. But yeah, for the most part, everything had to be sent up by trucks through Canada. They show 20 rows here. Just looking to see if I can find Wisconsin. Minnesota's at 291 on average at the time this article was published. They do not show Wisconsin. But yeah, we are definitely seeing some relief at the pump, and that is a good thing. Alright. We did finance. Now for the crux of what we started with here. We got to talk about it. I didn't want to go too deep into it. I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't really care. I was more surprised, if anything. And I knew it was going to be politicized, and it did get politicized. But Rob Reiner, you know, I disagreed with a lot of what he said, and I think I had him muted on X because he was just so insufferable. But you also don't want to see bad stuff happen to a person. You know, I even wish politicians long and healthy lives on this channel. I don't want to mistreat my enemies. I never do. I want them to be around so I can continue to be better. I just got my picture taken. But from the Associated Press, we do have some updates on this one, and we'll go through a bit of what happened, because I'm sure the Associated Press is going to review the entire thing. Son Nick arrested after Rob Reiner and his wife found dead in LA home, Associated Press sources say. From Christopher Weber and Mike Balsamo. Rob Reiner's son, Nick Reiner, was in police custody Monday after the death of the director-actor and his wife, Michelle, a law enforcement official told the Associated Press. Online jail records show Nick Reiner was booked into LA by LA police and remained in jail on Monday. It was not immediately clear what charges he would face. The online records show a $4 million bail has been set. Law enforcement official who was briefed on the investigation confirmed that he was being held but could not publicly discuss the details and spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity. Has anybody seen the Mogwai lately? Because we're getting awful lot of anonymous sources. Alright, on the review, Rob and Michelle were found dead on Sunday at their home in LA, and investigators believe they suffered stab wounds, the law enforcement official said. The LA Fire Department said it responded to a medical aid request shortly after 3:30 p.m. and found a 78-year-old man and a 68-year-old woman dead inside. Reiner turned 78 in March. Detectives with the Robbery Homicide Division were being investigated in an apparent homicide at Reiner's home, said Captain Mike Bland with the LAPD. LA authorities have not confirmed the identities of the people found dead at the resident in the upscale Brentwood neighborhood in the city's west side that is home to many celebrities. Well, everyone else has confirmed it at this point. So, yeah, they found Reiner stabbed. I'm not gonna lie. The first place my mind went to is that somebody went off and offed him so they could go back and blame the Make America Great Again movement for it. Because, you know what? We've seen way too much of that stuff, and it always seems whenever there's a prominent killing in the news at this point, that's the first thing we find out is, oh, that's weird. It was a MAGA supporter, even if the person shot at the president and the head of MAGA. I still don't buy that one, by the way. There seems to always be a narrative ready right there to go get released to the news. It's weird the timing of how all this goes. And again, you don't want to see anything bad happen to the dude. You don't. I don't. He's an insufferable twit, yes, but you know, he did a lot of good things throughout his life. Directed a lot of movies, and All in the Family was a little bit before my time, admittedly. I know my parents liked it. Alright, from KTLA, Rob Reiner, wife found dead inside Brentwood home in apparent homicide. Legendary, that's questionable, Hollywood director and actor Rob Reiner and his wife were found dead inside the couple's Brentwood home in an apparent homicide Sunday. In a press briefing, the LAPD spokesman Alan Hamilton declined to identify the decedents and stated the LA County Medical Examiner would be responsible for announcing the exact cause of death and making official identifications. However, in a statement obtained by the LA Times, a spokesperson for the family said, "It is with profound sorrow that we announce the tragic passing of Michelle and Rob. We're broken by this sudden loss, and we ask for privacy during this unbelievably difficult time. As of right now, we still don't have the motive." While Hamilton told reporters investigators do not currently have a suspect or person of interest and have not detained or interviewed anyone in the case, people citing multiple sources reported Reiners were killed by their son Nick, and yes, as of this point, he is now in custody. I know people have talked a lot about the for lack of a better word, Trump derangement syndrome that Rob Reiner had, and maybe it drove his kid crazy. There's possibly some abuse that happened there. Maybe there were some drugs involved in it. I don't know. There's going to be a major investigation into this, but the LAPD at this point does seem to be pretty positive that it was Nick Reiner. So it's definitely shocking to hear, that's for sure. Let's see, what else do we have? That's The Sun. That's a tabloid. I don't know why I put that on here. I mean, they cite a tab just for the Kardashians. Skip! We'll grab one from the New York Times, though, former newspaper. Reiner family associate details events before and after killings were discovered. So, a little bit of timeline here. We're going to do just a little bit of this one. We're not going to go too into depth with it here. A person close to the family provided a detailed account of what occurred in the Reiner house after a massage therapist received no response at the gate. Alright, here's the latest. They're pinned on this. This is a live update, but I archived it. Romy Reiner, the daughter of the director, found her father's body on Sunday after being alerted by a massage therapist who'd been unable to reach the couple before a scheduled appointment in their LA home. A person close to the family provided one of the first detailed descriptions of the tragedy from the family's perspective, sharing the account on Tuesday, hours before the couple's younger son, Nick, was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Nick could face the death penalty in California, which is weird, because a special circumstance was added to the murder charges. Nick Reiner, the younger son of celebrated Hollywood director Rob and Michelle, faced 2 counts of first-degree murder in appearance. Charge typically carries a maximum sentence of life with possibility for parole after 25. But Nick could face death penalty because of how the LA County District Attorney's Office filed the charges against him. The 2 murder counts include a special circumstance of committing multiple murders, which increases the possible punishment. It's California, I still don't think they're going to do so. Nathan Hochman, the LA District Attorney, was asked whether anything was known about Nick and the mental health issues. He said any information on that subject would be taken up in the court. So, they're apparently on this one. Let's talk about the Orange Man. Shoot me now. Angela Belcamino, bold lib, tweeted out the following on the day that this happened. The President of the United States had this to say about Rob Reiner on Truth Social. I don't personally find his approach helpful or necessary. I agree with the bold lib on that one. Even though I made fun of her online personality and said, that's a bold take in all caps. But I read this, and I read it a few times, and none of this was helpful. There's a reason I approached this the way that I did. Because nothing you see on the screen right now helps the case, helps ease tensions in this country, which really need to be eased at this point. Nothing in this helps anything. Helps the midterms, helps the economy, nothing. And just kind of makes you look like a pompous ass. I quote from the Orange Man. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife Michelle. Reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. You heard it here, well, not first, because this happened on Sunday and it's now Thursday. You heard it here fourth, people. A director was murdered by his kid in Hollywood, and our president can make it all about him. God damn it, I gotta give talent or credit where credit's due. That is some talent right there. I didn't think you'd be able to make that connection. He was known to have driven the people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. When did that happen? And with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Somebody else commented, let's be honest, Rob Reiner would gleefully celebrate if the roles were reversed. I can't argue against that. He definitely would be. But there's no reason the leader of the free world, again, has to make this all about him. It wasn't about him. We don't even know what it was that caused this kid to snap at this point. That's what I'm most interested in. But no, none of this was helpful. Not even in the slightest. But that's Rob Reiner. Until the investigation comes out, I don't have a whole lot more to say about that. It might actually be nice for our general discourse to go back to celebrity instead of politics, because for some reason our politicians are our new celebrities, and I don't know how or when that happened. I guess what they say is true, though. Politics really is Hollywood for ugly people. Let's talk about Brown. we got a live updater here. TLDR on this one. There was a mass shooting at Brown University this past week. They thought they had somebody. They arrested somebody first day, and they had the wrong person. They didn't say anything until 3 days later. Which in 3 days, if you have just blasted away 11 of your classmates in a small campus on Rhode Island, there's a good chance you're in Ohio by that point. On the run or hiding out. I mean, you could be over national lines at this point. You could be in Canada by this point to escape justice. And these people have no idea, apparently. From CNN, the live updater. New map shows location of person of interest in Brown University shooting as police ask for public health. Or public health, rather. How do we have the location of a person of interest when they don't seem to have any idea who this was? Let's read. With no arrests in Brown shooting, police turn to community for crucial evidence. Hannah Park. As the search for the gunman stretches another day without an arrest, investigators say community cooperation is key in solving the case. Do we have a wanted poster? Do we have an idea? Do we have a lead? I guess the answer is no on all 3 counts. It's a very intense investigation. I think it's going to take public assistance. Providence Police Chief Colonel Oscar Perez said at a Wednesday news conference. It's going to take 21st century policing involving technology, but it's also going to take a good old-fashioned police work, which is knocking on doors, going through yards, Perez said. So, basically, we're never going to find out who this dude is. Uh-oh. We've got more robots. Let's put you in timeout. Let's put you in timeout. On both of your occasions, if you do want to come back and say something useful. In 5 minutes, your timeout is up. Oh, there are 3 of them. What time you owe, too? That appeal to the public now includes reviewing security cameras footage before the shooting, as detectives believe the suspect may have been in the area earlier than initially thought. I think it's because the new Mega Man game got announced that suddenly we have all the robots out. Former FBI official who led the Boston Marathon bombing task force speaks on Brown University shooting investigation. A former official who led the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing task force praised officials in Providence for their work handling the investigation of the Brown University shooting, which, I mean, Providence and Boston are only like an hour apart. You can clearly see team law enforcement absolutely unified. Former FBI Assistant Director Kieran Ramsey told CNN affiliate WCBB on Wednesday. What do we know about the ongoing search? This will be interesting. Authorities are still looking for a person responsible. They're asking for the public's help to identify a person of interest, as well as a person who may have crossed paths with that person. Police also released a map showing where the person of interest was seen on the day of the shooting. And it looks like a fairly rotund gentleman with a mask on. Music's still too loud? Okay, we can do something about that. Definitely. I'm a little bit curious what got screwed up in my system where that's becoming an issue. But we'll have to go back and figure it out at some point. Investigators not discouraged. The search for the shooter entered its 5th day, but authorities are not discouraged. Rhode Island AG Peter Nerona said law enforcement officials won't stop searching until they capture the shooting suspect. Providence Police Chief Oscar Perez said affiliation of the person of interest is unknown. It's still unknown if the person of interest in the case is affiliated with the university, Perez said. Eyewitness accounts match the description of a person of interest the police are seeking. Eyewitness accounts of the gunman involved in the shooting match the description of the person of interest police are seeking in connection with the incident, Perez said. So they think they know who did it. But again, the fact that it's taken them 5 days means this person could be anywhere. There could be in a country with no extradition. Or, and maybe this is the case, maybe they haven't quite identified their patsy yet for this. I know I'm always going to be cynical about this, but man, there do seem to be an awful lot of, quote, mass shootings that show up in years where there are Republicans. Police have released a new video on this one. Let's see if they have the video. This is a live updater as well. Student position, more shooting victims, early decision notices. There's an enhanced photo of the person of interest. They're describing the person in this photo as the person who is in proximity of the person of interest. But it does not appear that, no, they have any other leads. Is it politicized? Of course it is. But of course that's part of the reason as well that I'm fairly positive of the fact that this is going to be... They know who did it, but they're going to put a patsy up to try to spin a narrative. Senate Dem wastes no time, blames Brown shooting on one Donald J. Trump. From Virginia Kruta over at the Daily Wire. Chris Murphy of Connecticut, who, if you are following him or he's in your algorithm on X, you already know is an insufferable asshole. Chris Murphy wasted no time on Sunday blaming the horrific Brown University shooting, which occurred less than 24 hours earlier, on Trump. Video is worth 1.5 billion words. Let's listen.
Not shocking, because over the last year, President Trump has been engaged in a dizzying campaign to increase violence in this country. He is restoring gun rights to felons and people who have lost their ability to buy guns. He eliminated the White House Office of Gun Violence Protection, and he has stopped funding mental health grants and community anti-gun violence grants that Republicans and Democrats supported in that 2022 bill. So he has been engaged in a pretty deliberate campaign to try to make violence more likely in this country. And I think you're unfortunately going to see the results of that on the streets of America.
That's a pretty big statement. He's in a campaign to make violence more likely?
Of course. I mean, he's knowingly restoring gun rights to dangerous people. He is cutting off grants that have bipartisan support to try to interrupt violence in our cities or to try to get necessary mental health resources to families and children in need. The evidence tells you that when you stop funding mental health, when you stop funding community anti-gun violence programs, when you give gun rights back to dangerous people, you are going to have an increase in violence that is knowable and that is foreseeable.
I just complained about the fact that the Orange Man can make anything, even the death of a celebrity across the country, about him Well, there you go. Our friends on the left can make anything that's violent, even if it had nothing to do with the president. And we don't even know who the suspect is at this point, but can turn around and make it all about the administration. Golf clap. But that's just par for the course for Chris Murphy. Little is known about the Brown University shooting. Misinformation is filling in the gaps. The Boston Globe. Blaming you for trying to see something and say something. Days after the deadly attack at Brown, information remains scarce about the assailant who killed 2 students and wounded 9 on Saturday. For some, rumors, misinformation, and widespread fear are filling in the gaps. Authorities said Tuesday they were still searching for the gunman who opened fire in a campus building, working with at least 200 actionable tips on the shooting. The few details they released included that he is an approximately 5'8" male with a stocky build who definitely targeted Brown. In the absence of a clear narrative, misinformation about the shooter and any possible motives has spread, with a host of right-wing influencers promoting unverified theories. In some cases, they were amplified by members of Congress. Yeah, that's par for the course. The response to the tragedy at Brown, misinformation experts say, demonstrates how our information environment has deteriorated. Some elected officials are relaying false information or suggesting unproven motives, claims that may once have remained in fringe circles, not leaked into the mainstream. Meanwhile, many in the general public have less trust in institutions providing factual information, and there are a few measures in place, especially online, to determine what's real. And this is all well and good, and I definitely understand what the Boston Globe is trying to say off of this, because, as I just pointed out and said, this is an ongoing investigation. They have a person of interest. They don't have a suspect in custody. They can't question a suspect in custody. And they don't even know if the dude is the dude. They just know that he had a mask on and a stocky build, and they have somebody that kind of looks like him in mind. But what I will say on this, and when we talk about this and what's going on with this, I will also point out the fact that statistically likely, and I'm saying this as somebody that lived near Rhode Island, in the southern end of Massachusetts for a long time, statistically, you are very, very, very likely to be looking at a leftoid, just based on voting patterns of Rhode Island over the last 20 years. And the fact that you're right next to an Ivy League school on top of it further increases that likelihood and chance. Don't know. Won't know until they identify who the person is and they establish a motive. My guess is they're probably not going to take the dude alive. Oddly enough. But again, nobody's going to know until they pick the guy up. And we can determine who it is. I mean, go look at the J6 pipe bomber, which we may or may not get to yet today, because that dude, they immediately said, hey, we've got all this evidence that points to a Capitol Police officer. And oh, hey, look, we found a suspect. We arrested him. Yay! And it wasn't a Capitol Police officer. On local news, though, and I maybe even experienced a little bit of this when I lived out there, from WQOW.com. By the way, if you are in my home state, there's a winter weather advisory today. And a lot of the schools, at least in western Wisconsin, are closing right now. It doesn't look like there's any reason to when I look outside, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be the case as it gets close to school close time. Wisconsin man detained in deadly Brown University shooting from Lauren Abozid. A person of interest in the deadly mass shooting at Brown is from Wisconsin. The suspect is 24-year-old Benjamin Erickson, taken into custody early Sunday at 3:45 a.m. at a hotel in Coventry, Rhode Island, about 28 miles south of Providence. Sources indicate the man was allegedly carrying 2 firearms at the time of his arrest. WISN crews saw FBI agents at a residence in Cedarburg on Sunday. The FBI has not confirmed if this activity is connected to the Brown University shooting or the detained individual. But it turns out that it wasn't him. From ABC, person of interest in Brown University shooting from Wisconsin is released. So they jumped onto one. I mean, they tried to do the same thing with the Charlie Kirk shooting though as well, where they thought for sure they had the guy, and the guy even said, "Hey, look, it was me, I did it." And then it turned out not to be that dude. It turned out to be somebody else entirely. The person of interest, detained in connection with the fatal mass shooting at Brown, is being released without charges. Providence Mayor Brett Smiley said during a press conference on Sunday night, "Ooh, somebody's getting sued. Somebody's getting sued." Rhode Island AG Peter Noronha said there had been evidence pointing to this individual, but that evidence now points in a different direction. Why? Because he was from Wisconsin and he had guns? And it frustrates me because I know that New England is a very, very insular community. I've known this for a long time. I lived there for 2 years. And yeah, when you look at people from outside of the insular community, yes, they do like to go back and point the finger at some of these people and say, "Hey, you're not like us. You might be the one that did something like this." It's almost like they're saying,
"Do not come."
At the time of the person of interest was detained, they were allegedly in possession of 2 guns, according to 2 sources. Colonel Perez, chief of the Providence Police Department, declined to comment on possible motive in the shooting, saying detectives are continuing to collect evidence and execute search warrants. And again, I remind you, they grabbed a guy who was not like everybody else in the area. They threw cuffs on him. They told everyone else about his guns. And again, I don't know if this person is attributed to the university or if, again, he's somebody different from everyone else around him and they just started flooding the lines with tips about the dude. But that does track with the way that they behave out there. I will say that. But for 5 days, this person, the person who actually did it, has been out and running around and is probably several states away at this point. He might not get caught, dudes. That might be a thing. We will see. Oh, do we have another one of these? Jesus Christ, you're like the 5th one today. You can have a timeout too. Come back and talk to me in 5 minutes. Who wants to lay bets on whether or not they catch that dude? You know who they did catch? From NPC News, Bondi beach shooting suspect charged with terrorism and 15 counts of murder. That's right. The biggest instance of mass shooting in the world this year did not come from the United States. And of course, inspired by ISIS. Surprise, surprise. Australian authorities charged the surviving suspect in the Bondi Beach shooting with 59 offenses on Wednesday, including terrorism and 15 counts of murder. Naveed Akram, 24, was charged after he awoke from a coma in a Sydney hospital, having been shot by police. He is alleged to have carried out an Islamic State-inspired attack on the Hanukkah celebration alongside his father, Sajid Akram. I mispronounced that, by the way. It's Hanukkah. You gotta get that H in there. The charges came as the first funerals for the victims were held under tight security not far from the scene. Investigators were meanwhile turning their attention to the suspect's alleged ISIS connection, including a trip to a southern island of the Philippines, seen in the past as a hotspot for extremism. Yeah, the separatist island in the Philippines that's typically associated with ISIS for whatever reason. Akram was also charged with 40 counts of causing grievous bodily harm with intent to murder and 1 count each of committing a terrorist attack, discharging firearms, placing explosives, and publicly displaying a terrorist organization symbol, New South Wales police said. F in the chat, by the way. Police will allege in court the man engaged in conduct that caused death, serious injury, and endangered life to advance a religious cause and cause fear in the community, police said in a statement, which is funny because, again, based on the fact that this was religious in nature, when they tally up the statistics, they're going to call this right-wing violence. They might not say it outright in any of the news articles, but yes, that's where it's going to fall in the tally. The police department said early indicators pointed to a terrorist attack inspired by ISIS. The second suspect was shot dead by police officers on the scene. On Sunday, the younger Akram was critically wounded. Police said earlier Wednesday they were waiting for his condition to stabilize before they charged him. It is important he has the appropriate cognitive ability for his fairness. We need him to understand what exactly is happening, NSW Police Commissioner Mel Lanyon said. The 2 suspects were alleged to have targeted a Jewish community by unleashing a volley of bullets at a Hanukkah celebration on the iconic beach. A 10-year-old girl, a Holocaust survivor, and a rabbi were among the dead, with dozens more people injured. Two cops were also injured, NSW police said. 5 people were still in critical condition, New South Wales Health Department said on Wednesday. The officers and civilians who tried to take down the gunman have drawn an outpouring of praise, as they should be, by the way. And it's funny because when you're sitting here trying to craft the narrative behind this whole thing, you sit back and you think about the fact that the person who took down the gunman was also an Islamic person. Just one who decided not to terrorize a Jewish celebration. And I know that they're trying to put the spin on this one, and I know that to some level it's not working, and that's why you're not hearing a lot about this one anymore. He's a good boy, mother of the Bondi Beach shooting suspect praises her cold-blooded killer's son. Because we've got to put an editorial on everything. From Hank Berrien. The mother of Naveed Akram insisted her son was a good boy. He may or may not have been, but he did a really sucky thing. So, we're going to call that a wash. Footage showed Naveed and his father calmly leaving a rented home in Camp C late Sunday afternoon, climbing into a silver hatchback and driving towards Bondi Beach. Less than 90 minutes later, police say the pair opened fire on a Hanukkah celebration, killing at least 15 people and wounding dozens more in a targeted attack on Jews. The footage contradicts what Akram had told his family earlier that day. According to his mother, Reiner, the men were supposedly enjoying a wholesome fishing trip. complete with swimming, scuba diving, and dinner plans. Instead, investigators allege the father-son duo were holed up in a short-term rental, preparing for mass murder. Yeah, he might be counted as white on that one, because he is pretty fair. I think the damned man is right. Akram's mother praised him, saying he doesn't have a firearm, he doesn't even go out. He doesn't mix around with friends, claiming her son did not drink, smoke, or go to bad places. Anyone would wish to have a son like my son. He's a good boy, she insisted. Huh. Hey, there's 6. Kick, you might have to do something about this. That's 6 in a little bit over an hour. Australia is holding funerals now for the 15 victims of an anti-Semitic mass shooting at Bondi Beach. From Charlotte Graham McClay and Rob McGurk. Australia prepared for the funerals on Wednesday for some of the 15 victims of an anti-Semitic mass shooting, an attack police said was inspired by the Islamic State group. The victims were between 10 and 87. 22 people were injured in the attack and remained in Sydney hospitals on Wednesday, 6 of them in critical condition. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Tuesday the IS-link assessment was based on evidence obtained, including the presence of an Islamic State flag in the vehicle that has been seized. Among the injured in the hospital is Ahmed Al-Ahmed, hailed as a hero after he was captured on video tackling and disarming one of the assailants before pointing the man's weapon at him and then setting it on the ground. 3 other people who tried to stop the gunman were shot and killed. So, good, I'm excited for the fact that people actually went in and tried to do something about this. And the people that try to jump in are heroes, 100%. But yes, the funerals are coming. On our own soil again, FBI disrupted alleged terrorist bombing plot in LA, per officials from Jack Date, Bonnie McLean, and Alexander Malin. AG Bondi announced Monday that the FBI disrupted a massive and horrific terror plot by an anti-government extremist group allegedly planning a series of bombings against multiple targets in Orange County and LA, beginning on New Year's Eve. Bondi said the plot of the so-called Turtle Island Liberation Front, which he described in the announcement as far-left, pro-Palestine, anti-government, and anti-capitalist group, also planned to target ICE agents and vehicles. At a Los Angeles press conference on Monday, Bill Asaley, Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, and Akil Davis, Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's LA Field Office, said that 4 people, identified as Audrey Eileen Carroll, Zachary Aaron Page, Dante Gaffield, and Tina Lai, were arrested and each charged with conspiracy and possession of an unregistered destructive vehicle, or device rather. Wow, I can really read today. So there's definitely some age gap here. This isn't like a bunch of pro-Palestine college students coming back out and doing horrible things. This is, we range in age from 24 to 41, with 230-somethings right in the middle of that. The FBI intercepted a scheme by members of a violent extremist group we believe to be determined to detonate explosives at multiple businesses on New Year's Eve, per Davis. The 4 people arrested, when Davis said were members of the radical faction of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, a violent homegrown anti-terror government group, allegedly planned to plant backpacks containing improvised explosive devices to be detonated at multiple locations in SoCal, targeting U.S. companies. Well, I wonder what the motive is going to be. I guess, again, they can be questioned. We can find out, but whether or not we will, all has to do with how their politics are identified. We'll skip that one. That's a review. One of the people whose nickname was Dark Witch is a fifth person now arrested for the from the terror cell. A fifth person allegedly involved in the terror group plotting a New Year's Eve bombing attack in LA has been named as a former U.S. Marine. What's up?
I win.
Has Junior went back to sleep?
Yeah.
Nice.
Palm 1, baby 0.
Quiet in the chat, folks. The baby's sleeping. Especially you, robots. Michael Lignon was arrested in Louisiana after he was accused of plotting an alleged attack in New Orleans in affiliation with the radical group Turtle Island Liberation Front, or TILF. Rule 42, by the way, of the internet, expressing the fact that if something can be used, if something exists, a porno can be made about it. So I want to see what the TILF acronym is actually going to wind up being. I know MILF and DILF. What is TILF? I feel like it's going to involve transsexuality at some point. Given the way that our internet has been, that is a very, very unfortunate acronym. Lignon, also a former New Iberia police officer, was allegedly seen loading a vehicle with what appeared to be an assault rifle and body armor on Friday, according to the affidavit. Well, yeah, if you have body armor and an assault rifle in California, ooh, scary. Did we get another one of these miserable bastards? Yes, we did. A post on Facebook saw Lignon under the username Kateri the Witch reshare images of Border Patrol agents conducting an arrest on a rooftop with the caption, "I don't know what the S word is, but it's some sort of time to recreate Waco TV with these fuckers. Fuck ICE." And I quote. Hate to say it, I don't think that dude was doing anything to ICE. I don't think they were actually exactly afraid of that person. Let's talk about Mar-a-Lago. Kash Patel reacts to emails disputing probable cause for Mar-a-Lago raid. Yes, apparently a bunch of the people who were on board for the Mar-a-Lago raid were questioning it as they were going in, saying, hey, do we actually have the authority to do this? You can almost hear the movie quote of, are we the bad guys? Let's see, let's get in here. This is from Gabe Wisnat. Kash Patel responded to the release of internal FBI emails showing the Bureau officials raised early concerns about whether there was sufficient probable cause to search the Mar-a-Lago, arguing that the documents highlight internal resistance to pursuing a raid. Imagine that. The emails released by the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley detailed deliberations in 2022 when Biden was president as the FBI and the DOJ weighed how to recover classified documents believed to be remaining at Trump's Florida home. The correspondent shows FBI officials urging prosecutors to consider less intrusive options, including working through Trump's attorney before seeking a search warrant. Patel posted on X, "It's true, we just turned over documents to Capitol Hill to be made public showing the FBI told DOJ they didn't have probable cause for raiding the president's home in Mar-a-Lago, but DOJ didn't give a damn and said, do it anyway." DOJ has not commented publicly on the document release. Newsweek reached out to the DOJ via email on Tuesday night for the comment, which, I mean, Pam Bondi is going to carry water for Trump no matter what. So I don't know why they're reaching out to the DOJ now for it. Submit a comment to Merrick Garland's office and his attorney for comment. You know, since he was running the DOJ at the time. That's what I would do if it was me. Here's what Pam Bondi's gonna do. She's gonna, yes, the raid on the Mar-a-Lago was very bad, and the crab spots on her nose are just gonna grow. And we here at the DOJ consider ourselves to be above all of this. Yay, Donald Trump. Like, what do you seriously think you're gonna get out of that? Nancy Pelosi showing decorum on her way out the door. This is not, by the way, what other right-wing commentators like Sticks and whatnot are saying that this is. I know exactly what this is. This is exactly the same thing that happens when Hillary Clinton goes on air and says, well, we need to go back and re-educate Trump supporters, and uses those exact words to try to make the movement look bad. Nancy Pelosi is trying to make all the people that she used to lead look rabid because they pushed her aside. She wanted to have the power. She wanted to go up and be the big dog. And I mean, in some cases, as Speaker of the House, she was, but she was not thrilled about being pushed aside and replaced by what somebody like Nancy Pelosi admittedly considered for most of her life to be the help, Hakeem Jeffries. This waspy old liberal woman, yes, she says she has tremendous respect for people like Harris and Jeffries in positions of power, but when the doors are closed, it's N-word this and colored folks that. I guarantee you. You leftoids want to come back and try to argue against that? I have been in your company when you're drunk, and you think that nobody else is listening. I used to be one of you. I know what you say behind closed doors. I've joked about it with you behind closed doors. Hey, look, there's number 7. I'm getting them left and right here. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi suggests there was not currently enough evidence to impeach Trump for a third time. During an interview with USA Today's Susan Page released on Saturday, Pelosi was asked whether the DNC should consider impeaching Trump if they retake the House in 2026, which again is going to be a big, oh, why should I care? She's not in office anymore. The person most responsible for impeaching Trump when I was Speaker was President Trump, Pelosi began. He gave us no choice. He crossed the line in his telephone call with Zelensky as one manifestation of disrespect for the Constitution, is jeopardizing the sanctity of our own elections in the country, and the rest. different article that's linked in this says Nancy Pelosi thinks a woman will be elected president, which I also think will be, but maybe not in her lifetime. I hate to say it and be morbid about it, and I do hope that I'm wrong and that she lives a long and healthy life, but I don't think the woman's got a whole lot of lifetime left. She's 82 years old. And her liver is pickled on box wine. Which is funny because she lived wealthily that close to the Sonoma Valley. She continued. And then, of course, January 6th, he can try to change the narrative all he wants, but we will be there to make sure the public knows the truth about January 6th. It was an insurrection incited by the President of the United States. Which is hilarious in and of itself, because how do you have an insurrection against yourself? Apparently you can do it. Don't know how. But no, she is turning around. She's looking at this, and yeah, she is putting a knife in the Democrat Party's back. I promise you. This is all about getting replaced by the help. Damn Man says, when right-wingers are racist, it's mainly just to troll. Yeah, I can't get behind that. I've been in my own Discord for long enough to know that that's not the case. But when left wing says it, it's with a venom. Hey look, I have more good news. Dan Bongino is stepping down as FBI Deputy Director. Now he can go back to making another podcast that nobody will listen to. That's not true either. Anybody who wears the red hat hangs on his every podcast word like it's the law put forth by Peter. Except Peter put forth the gospel, not the law. Dan Bongino says he will leave his role as the FBI's deputy director in January. That earned this one. In a post on X, he thanked Trump, as well as the director of the FBI and Attorney General, for the opportunity to serve with a purpose. Nobody knows what that purpose was, but he served with a purpose, apparently. It comes after Trump said earlier Wednesday the former podcast host did a great job in office and wants to go back to his show. Well, good. That's a good place for him. Bongino, who was appointed to the role by Trump in February, was previously a New York City police officer and a Secret Service agent assigned to protect Barack Obama in recent years. He built a large following through his podcast and other media appearances. Look, I don't think Bongino is a bad guy. I just don't think he was a fit for the deputy director. I'll make fun of him because he was cringe to the max. And I've listened to his show before, and yeah, he basically did nothing but throw red meat to people who were, for all intents and purposes, entranced by the orange glow of the fake tan. But he's not a bad guy, though, either. Like, I know that when the leftoids looked at the fact that he was being propelled to the deputy director status, you know, it was the whole Gestapo Nazi, he's gonna throw anybody that he doesn't like politically in prison. And he's not like that. But no, he was, I don't think he was in any way, shape, or form experienced or nonpartisan enough to be the deputy director of a law enforcement agency. Not that anybody that's directing a law enforcement agency is non-biased. We were just having that conversation in the Discord earlier. I got a sidetrack off this one, by the way. I got a sidetrack off Bongino at this point. If anybody knows Charles Warwick, otherwise known as Tic Tac Hammer 666, personally, get a message to him and tell him that he needs to get some help, man. And I know a lot of the clankers out there look up to him. I look to him as a good resource because he's partisan, yes, but... And I do like the occult stuff that he does. I like the literature stuff that he does, but... Man, that is a dude that needs some help right now. He went on and took a victory lap about the fact that his charges for what I don't know got dismissed by his hometown, and then the same day, he got charged with other stupidity involving a gun, which he's not supposed to have because he's out on domestic violence with a conviction of that. Dude needs to get himself into some rehab. And I'm sure it's hard that he's not allowed to go and see his own kid or anything. Being overseas and everything, and also having a domestic violence conviction on his record. I'm sure that the Dutch government doesn't really want him in their country right now, but in full seriousness, all right, Bongino, a staunch Trump ally, was considered a surprise pick for the role. I wasn't surprised. I knew they were going to try and force him somewhere into the admin, which had previously been held by career agents because he had no prior experience with the agency. The FBI Agents Association, which represents around 14,000 current and former agents, had opposed his appointment to the position. Announcing the decision on a social media post on Wednesday, he said, "I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January, and I want to thank President Trump, AG, Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with a purpose." So, he's out. I think press secretary would have actually probably been a better role for him, honestly. I get that he was a former Secret Service agent and a former cop. But again, it's just, I don't think he was experienced to go straight to the top of the FBI. With his savvy in podcasting and media, yeah, maybe definitely press secretary. I mean, it's got to be better than bubble-headed bleach blonde. Long says, "I'm happy to see Ed has gained an appreciation for the good work of Pope St. Peter the First, the Prince of the Apostles, and the rock upon which Christ built his church." All right, now we go on to Bush-era warmongering. I need to get title cards for some of these segments off of this because we're going back to this stuff an awful lot lately. Trump orders total and complete blockade of sanctioned oil tankers coming to and leaving Venezuela. From Kit Marr and Kevin Liptak. The Orange Man said Tuesday he was ordering a total and complete blockade of sanctioned oil tankers coming to and leaving from Venezuela, ratcheting up pressure against leader Nicolas Maduro's regime and suggesting an economic motive to the U.S. military campaign in the region. Funny, because that's about how the Phantom Menace started, wasn't it? I mean, we can go get the scrolling wall of text. Punctuating the words, "total and complete blockade" in capital letters because he's Donald fucking Trump. And that's what he does. In a Truth Social post, Trump pointed to the large collection of U.S. military assets in the region, suggested more could be coming, and took aim at Maduro's regime by name. He also suggested Venezuela give up land, oil, and assets to the U.S., making it clear that one aim of his military campaign is not just about countering the drug trade. Okay, but anybody who knows anything about what's going on right now knew that it wasn't about the drug trade. Well, it was, but that was the public base. Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they've ever seen before. Until such time as they return to the United States of America all of the oil, land, and other assets they previously stole from us, Trump said on Tuesday. Do we need to get the map out? What land did they steal from us? And oil, for that matter. Okay. Let's get the map out. God, I feel like Ben Shapiro. Good Trump, bad Trump. Which one do we get today? Alright. Open in maps. So, there's Venezuela. Adjacent to Colombia. With a disputed border with Guyana. And there is a large amount of non-U.S. territories in between. Puerto Rico, maybe, but they didn't take Puerto Rico from us. That's a U.S. territory. Apparently Belize and Guatemala also have a disputed border, but like, where are we stealing land from? Panama? No, Colombia would stand in the way of that. You have to go 8,500 miles from Venezuela before you see anything of U.S. land. What land and oil did they steal from us? I was told we were not going back to Bushite stuff. Man. Why are we going back and doing Bush-like things? Okay, we actually may have an explanation of this. He's talking about the American corporate properties and facilities that Venezuela nationalized and took by force from U.S. companies. Well, we really shouldn't have been down there in the first place then, but the Venezuelan oil reserves were being extracted by American companies before the communists took over the country. And yes, they did nationalize the industry. That does make some sense. Maybe this is just round 2 of the war on drugs. Yes. 2 weeks ago when we did this, we titled the episode, "The War on Drugs Gets a Land Campaign." Because nothing says you're serious like putting boots on the ground. John Fetterman weighing in on this one. Fetterman blasts media, defends Trump's narco-terror strikes and oil tanker seizure. Okay, you have my attention. Pennsylvania Democrat and former stroke victim Senator Fetterman ripped the legacy media and strongly defended the Trump admin over its action vis-a-vis Venezuela, including strikes on suspected narco-terrorist boats and seizing an oil tanker used by Nicolas Maduro's regime, which, by the way, that is one of the reasons that gas is down right now, is because, well, we just had a big influx of oil from Venezuela. Last week, the U.S. seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, targeting Venezuela's state-owned oil industry and primary source of funding since September. The U.S. military has also knocked out over 20 boats and submarines in the Caribbean Sea and Pacific Ocean in strikes targeting narco-terrorists. News Nation's Chris Cuomo asked Fetterman about briefing he had attended about the situation, saying, "What did you learn, Senator, that gave you any comfort that we're not heading into some kind of extended military exercise around Venezuela or in Venezuela?" And Fetterman said, "I thought it was pretty comprehensive." He then criticized the media for attacking the Trump admin on the issue. And this idea, some things out in the media, it's kind of putting out this that the military is just picking off any boat that comes across. That's just not true, although we, the people, have not seen any evidence of that, so. I mean, there's extensive intelligence that they know exactly who's on the boat, and they know what's actually on that boat right now, and that's quite frequently they decline to take it into a move on these things. When they move on these kinds of strikes, you know, they have absolute confidence who's on it, and what's on it, and what's exactly that's about. They're not just going around randomly shooting boats in those things. That's just not the fact. Okay, and again, if they're dead, then we're not putting any intelligence asset at risk, so can we see some evidence of the fact there were drugs on these things? But it looks like some of the DNC is getting ready to go all in on this. I hope we don't wind up in a war in South America. I really don't. I really do hope that. Apparently we have some moves on the healthcare front. Maybe we will see Trump care after all. House GOP passes narrow healthcare package with key Obamacare subsidies set to expire. From Sarah Ferris and Tammy Luby. House Republicans on Wednesday approved a narrow package designed to lower healthcare costs for some Americans in the coming years, marking a win for leadership, even as some of their own members complain it falls woefully short of tackling rising prices in 2026. Speaker Johnson and his team were aggressive in pushing their healthcare plan to the floor this week, vowing it will be the first step of a major GOP agenda on lowering costs next year. They are specifically ignoring, however, the issue of the expiring enhanced ACA subsidies that were passed during the pandemic to help people afford premium costs. Those tax credits will expire at the end of the month, spiking premiums for tens of millions of Americans next year. The House GOP package instead would allow small businesses, as well as self-employable people, to band together across industries to buy coverage through an association health plans in an effort to lower premiums. It would also once again provide federal funding for the cost-sharing subsidies that lower-income ACA enrollees receive to reduce their deductibles and out-of-pocket costs for care. So, I'm going to translate this for you because CNN used a lot of weasel words to make this sound big and scary and all kinds of other things. They're going to make self-employed people be able to do the same thing that you can do at work currently if you are employed by somebody else. Where your employer goes back and buys a great big plan to go cover everybody, and then, because of a bulk rate, gets the discounts passed along to you, which is still outrageously expensive because of the mandates, subsidies, and other pork in the ACA, but it's still not anywhere near as expensive as what you would go find on the marketplace by yourself right now. So essentially, they're making Blue Cross for self-employed people. That's the simplest way I can explain it. And it's a little bit oversimplified, but that's what they're doing. House Republicans will also require pharmacy benefit managers, which act as middlemen between drug makers and insurers or employers, to provide employers with data on the price of drugs, the rebates they receive from manufacturers and other operations. That I do agree with, because transparency in any aspect is a good thing. The House voted 216 to 211 to send the measure to the Senate, which is not expected to vote on it before lawmakers leave town for Christmas, or whichever holiday they celebrate. If what the conspiracy theorists in the Discord tell me is true, a lot of them are probably going to celebrate Hanukkah. I'm going to pretend they're celebrating Christmas. The last-minute healthcare push from the GOP leaders comes at a fraught moment for the party. Trump is striving to show he's making progress to lower costs for everyday Americans, but his own members are attacking Johnson and other GOP leaders for ignoring the looming ACA subsidy cliff, which would raise costs for tens of millions of Americans starting in January. So, a lot to unpack here. A lot of stuff going on with this. I'm going to make a long story short on this. This dies in the Senate. I do think that a couple of Democrats looking at this and looking at what's been made even aware by CNN Politics are going to look at this and jump ship, but I don't think you're going to hit that 60 vote threshold. And I think that's where it dies. My prediction, bookmark this podcast, 2 Democrats jump ship over, 3 Democrats jump ship over, 1 Republican jump ship to the other side. And this fails in the Senate 53-47. That's my official prediction on this one. But we're doing something. And I like the idea. I honestly do. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And that is based on the fact that very, very few Democrats want to come back out and sign on to something that the Orange Man did, because, you know, then they're going to lose their seats when they go back to their home districts. We got to talk about the DC pipe bomber. This was a story that came out last week, because when CNN and ABC went to try to run with the story when they finally announced the name of the suspect, they tried to say that it was a white supremacist, Christian, right-wing nationalist. I still don't, by the way, buy that this was the person that did it either, but the person whose face they're putting out in front of the cameras is a black progressive. Accused DC pipe bomber Brian Cole Jr.'s face was revealed for the first time since he was busted for allegedly planting explosive devices outside the RNC and the DNC ahead of the January 6th selfie fest. Cole's mother shared a smiling picture of him in a blue dress shirt and tie on Instagram for the National Sons Day on September 2024, more than 3 years after the alleged bombing. The Virginia native was busted Thursday after FBI investigators descended on his family's quiet Woodbridge home after the shocking case went cold under the Biden admin. There he is, unless you're listening on the audio platform. A black Beltway progressive. Today's arrest happened because the Trump admin has made this case a priority. AG Bondi told reporters at a press conference on Thursday afternoon. Pam Bondi, you got some brown stuff on your nose. She stressed that multiple law enforcement agencies spent months combing through evidence to identify a clear lead that allowed the operation to be carried out safely and successfully. Guys, I still don't buy this, by the way. You have a very, very fair face that you can see underneath the hood of the security camera. There was the distinctive gait that, what was it, the Blaze put out as evidence off of this, and they accused somebody else, which I still don't buy that person either. But, and as cringy as I say that Tim Pool is 3/4 of the time, he did bring up the good point of, typically, when a man bends down to go plant something or put something down or set something down like that, he bends at the knees and goes down. Women typically bend at the waist, and the video footage they have of this thing getting planted, of these bombs getting planted, showed the suspect bending down at the waist to go plant this. I think this dude is a patsy. I do. And of course, I think the Blaze is out of their minds. But they sure did bring a suspect down quick after the Blaze released their stuff, didn't they? Yeah, even NBC News trying to come out with this. FBI throws cold water on stories suggesting Capitol Police officer was January 6th pipe bomber. When I see a headline like that, that's the tell if they were trying to find somebody out there to throw down as a patsy because somebody was sniffing too close. Some local Arizona news and some trucking news from the Tucson Sentinel. ICE agents execute warrants at a trucking company on Tucson's Miracle Mile. From Paul Ingram. Dozens of agents with DHS raided a trucking company in Tucson on Wednesday as part of an investigation in the drivers of semi-tractor trailers carrying cargo from the U.S.-Mexico border. So this doesn't appear to be an ICE raid. This appears to be more of a, hey, let's make sure there's not drugs coming into the country. Yeah, I'll see if I can find that, Vaughn. Because I posted it in articles. Alright, at the businesses on the West Miracle Mile, agents with Homeland Security Investigations, one of the two branches of ICE, worked inside the taped-off yard for AG Trucking, carrying out boxes of documents. As they worked, a few trucks with the company were allowed to leave the yard, while along the street a small crowd formed to observe, including Pima County Supervisor Jen Allen and Tucson Councilman Kevin Dahl. Officials were tight-lipped about Wednesday's investigation, saying only they were executing federal search warrants, and those warrants remained sealed. They referred to questions to the U.S. Attorney's Office and ICE. Under a wrinkle of U.S. trade law, drivers bring cargo from farms and factories in Mexico can only haul goods through the U.S. under a B-1 temporary business visitor visa. However, those drivers cannot unload their cargo in warehouses in Nogales and Rio Rico and then continue on with new cargo because that would violate cabotage regulations. The regulations stem from nearly century-old law, originally designed to help protect the newly created merchant marines, which has in modern times limited competition to help U.S. truck drivers. So, yeah, this doesn't appear to be a major ICE raid. This appears to be, hey, I'm going to go check your trailer for some drugs. You got any drugs? Can I see for any drugs? Alright, in a little bit of entertainment news, and then I got one business news here for you. Then we'll probably get ready to start signing off for the day. We're at 2 hours still. We're 2 weeks out. We might get out long before 3 hours. Huzzahs. Storyboard 18. Netflix prepares for a huge borrowing spree to bankroll Warner Brothers bid. Yes, Netflix is apparently buying Warner Brothers. From no author given. Netflix plans to take on a substantial new debt to finance the acquisition of a majority stake in Warner Brothers Discovery, a deal valued at $72 billion with a B. The streaming company, which has significantly improved its balance sheet since the pandemic, is positioned to raise its offer in a potential bidding contest while maintaining its investment grade status. Netflix credit profile really turned around, said Stephen Flynn, an analyst covering telecom and media debt at Bloomberg. The agreed-upon acquisition includes $59 billion in temporary bank debt. Netflix Inc. intends to replace this with up to $25 billion in bonds, $20 billion in delayed draw term loans, and a $5 billion revolving credit facility. The company plans to use cash flow for some repayment. The debt load may increase as Paramount Skydance Corp. launched a hostile takeover bid for all of Warner Brothers at more than $108 billion, including debt, exceeding the Netflix offer by approximately $26 billion. So both of these companies want Warner bad. And there are a couple reasons why. I've not seen the movies, but the love of my life next to me has. Is Harry Potter, is that a Warner property? Yeah. So there's Harry Potter in the Netflix lineup right there. All the Matrix movies, which cycle in and out of Netflix here and there, become a permanent Netflix property. And the entire DC universe becomes a Netflix property at that point. Which I'm sure is a big part of the reason that Paramount is also trying to outbid off of this one. I mean, the DC universe is in no way as valuable as the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, but it's also no slouch. Analyst Morgan Stanley, led by David Hamburger, viewed the rising debt level as risks for Netflix investors. The company, rated A by S&P, Standard & Poor Global Ratings, and A3 by Moody's, is vulnerable to a downgrade to the BBB tier, BBB, according to their note. They recommend selling the company's 2034 and 2054 notes due to a potential new debt issuance and rating cuts. Other risks include executing a large-scale media deal, potentially regulatory intervention, and the risk of paying a $5.8 billion breakup fee if Paramount bid succeeds. So, I mean, Netflix is going to fight tooth and nail on this one right now because they're on the hook for $5.8 billion no matter what. So we'll see what happens with that, but I mean, that has the potential to be huge for Netflix if they grab it, and Paramount, yes, is fighting it. Trump, of course, had to make it all about him and weigh in on this one. And CNN covering it. Trump enters Warner Brothers fight, says it's imperative that CNN be sold. They're fake news after all. Trump inserted himself directly into the battle for control of Warner Brothers Discovery on Wednesday, saying it's imperative that CNN be sold, while deriding the network's news coverage. And it appears that it's going to be sold no matter what, but it's going to be who has the biggest pocketbook at this point. Alright, and the last one I have on my main news today comes from Amazon because they are getting ready to go back and dump the USPS. From Reuters, Amazon in discussions with the USPS about future relationship. Amazon said Thursday the e-commerce giant is in discussions with the USPS about its future relationship and considering its options before its current contract expires next year. The Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, reported Thursday the new Postmaster General David Steiner plans to hold a reverse auction in early 2026 that might create more competition within the post office for Amazon's business by offering access to the postal facilities to the highest bidder, rather than directly to Amazon. It would make the company compete with national retail brands and regional shipping firms. Dude, you're the post office. You're supposed to be impartial in all of this to begin with. Your role, per the government, is take package, drive around, put package where it's supposed to go. And I understand that, given the fact that email has pretty much gutted the post office to begin with, that Amazon is one of the only things that's holding it up and keeping it profitable right now. The Post said Amazon is USPS's top customer. No shit, Sherlock. Providing more than $6 billion in annual revenue in 2025, accounting for roughly 7.5% of its sales. Well, right, but they made a deal with Ford and Rivian, and they can run a lot of their own trucks right now, too. You have to keep that in mind. Our Amazon stuff here doesn't go through the USPS. It gets dropped right at our door by a van. That says
Or
Amazon
by,
stuff.
like Uber contractors.
Yeah, Uber contractors do that stuff too.
May not be actually Uber, but still.
Given the change of direction and uncertainty it adds to our delivery network, we're evaluating our options that will ensure we can continue to deliver to our customers, Amazon said. And again, I understand the fact that it's a government requirement. It's actually enshrined in the Constitution, so it's never going to officially go under. But losing Amazon like that could cause a major restructuring to the way the post office does business. So that's what I have for our main news for the day. Let's head out of here with some things that I like and some things that I hate. I'm going to skip around on this one a little bit because I have some of the stuff left over from this set. I'm just excited to see a 2 at the beginning of our time log right now, not a 3. But let's start with the rules of acquisition. We have one of the infamous criticism of capitalism rules of acquisition this week. Our 144th rule of acquisition. That's 12 squared, by the way, for those of you who are math geeks. The 144th rule of acquisition. There is nothing wrong with charity as long as it winds up in your pocket. I notice a lot of the ones from the DS9 reference book, the rules of acquisition, wind up in this category. And yes, this is Roddenberry having some fun and poking fun at the capitalist pig dogs that stand in the way of his communist utopia. And I am a huge advocate for private charity as well, so this one particularly annoys me in and of itself, because no, you shouldn't even be thinking about that for charity. You should be thinking of who this is going to help and how it's going to help that person. So I'm not going to say a lot on this one. It's not tied to an episode. It's not tied to anything that I would ever do. But we're going to be aware of the fact that it exists. Let's do some things that I hate. I want to move some stuff around, though. Yeah, this is going to go over here. We'll read that one later. We're going to start with Axios here. CEO of self-driving truck company rejects Teamsters' demand for human operators. Because of course they do. Because it's in his best interest to not do this, because he owns a self-driving truck company. And I'm going to say right off the bat, I don't trust AI to go back and run these things yet. I know that it's going to wind up coming in some point in my lifetime. It's going to be drone delivery. It's probably going to be off the road by the time it gets off to that point, but we are not ready with the technology to go take drivers out of big rigs. But it's another one of those things that's coming off of here it's a job that's being targeted by the people that are targeting things, because it takes a opportunity to raise some of the poorest among us into a solid middle class job away from the middle class. And it does frustrate me, the fact that so many of these people want to come back out and do this kind of stuff. Oh, but AI is more reliable and it can do this and it can't do that. I'm telling you right now, technology is advancing exponentially. Yes, it is. But we are going to need a lot more technology before anybody is going to trust an 80,000 pound vehicle going across a snow-covered county road in Wisconsin in January. And these things don't care for human life either. At least, I mean, you get a human driver in there, there's got to be some pang of guilt in there. But the truckers union wants to come back out and demand that these trucks have to have drivers in there, and the self-driving company says, hell no, we won't go. And I mean, I gotta side with the Teamsters on this one here because, yeah, there's two reasons for it. Number one, yeah, the empathy avenue of it, and this is one of the few jobs that you can get into. Well, now they require you take a $2,000 CDL class, but for $2,000, you can go from bagging groceries to a good, solid $60,000-$70,000 job if you're a company driver. If you're an owner-operator, you can bump that up to a six-figure job easily, but keep in mind that you have 6 figures worth of costs on that too. Where are all the kick robots coming from? You can go down for 5 minutes too. I was always an advocate for people to get a CDL. I really was, constantly, even in the Great Recession, because it was at the time a job that wasn't going away, and now a lot of H-1B workers are coming in and taking the jobs at a lower pay rate than what the American people demand off of these things. But yeah, that was the one job where it was supposedly always going to be there. And I hate the fact that people are trying to make it not be there. A couple other things that I like, or hate rather. War Department will not release full top secret video of September drug boat strike per Exeth, because we can't have transparency, because why the hell would we want to know what it exactly is that we're striking over there? I am beginning to not like this guy, and I have defended him before. Demonstrate shootings rolled right about Trump. We talked about that earlier. We can skip that one. Here's one thing that I hate. Republicans press Google and Apple to remove apps that track immigration agents. Because who doesn't love censorship more than Republicans? From Reuters. The House Committee on Homeland Security has asked Google and Apple to detail what steps they're taking to remove mobile apps that allow users to track federal immigration officers. No steps, because that's asinine. There's zero reason to do that. It's not illegal. You're allowed to do this, just like you're allowed to do Waze and show where the speed traps are. And letters sent on Friday to Sundar Pichai and Tim Cook, committee leader, singled out Ice Block, an app previously used to monitor U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, saying apps hosted on their app stores risk jeopardizing the safety of DHS personnel. Lawmakers requested a briefing on by December 12th. I get the fact that, yes, if you point out where they're going to be, some nut jobs are going to come out there and go back and try to make a protest out of it, but you know, there really is no law about tipping off where the police are if you see them and you say something. And they're not, again, making the same demands about Waze or Google Maps itself, saying there's police activity ahead. And it is the same thing. I want to talk just a bit about this one, and we're not going to go over this moronic woman who said the stupid thing 2 weeks ago. Also noticing that came out of the news real quick when they looked up this woman's voting records. But that's what our friend Sarah Fields, friend of the show, is saying about this. She's pointing out some of the hypocrisy that goes off with this. $150,000 was donated to a woman everyone thought was MAGA. She wasn't. That was the fired Cinnabon worker, which we're going to talk about very briefly in a moment here. $800,000 was donated to a woman for calling a 5-year-old a racial slur, and she was later charged. I think that, by the way, that behavior is disgusting, but I don't think that it warrants a legal charge. Over $110,000 was raised for a man who turned out to be a woman beater. Just like when you purchase a house, car, or any item in your life, do your research or wait for information. This country has a serious problem with making irresponsible financial decisions. If you don't regret your donation, cool, but I know that many donated without having all of the facts, and that's sad. Look, and that's the thing that goes along with this too. We see these videos go around and we're told to get outraged. A lot of people were told to get outraged over the woman at the Cinnabon. And they just did it because they were told to do so. And they spread their outrage and got other people to go back and do this. And this woman turned out to be a progressive leftist. Again, reminding you guys, you leftoids, I know what you say behind closed doors. I used to be one of you. I support the woman's freedom of speech, but I also support Cinnabon's decision to offload the toxicity off of their brand. And she's laughing her way the whole way to the bank on top of it. And all these things do not need to be a national news story. They don't. But from Newsweek, Crystal Wilsey speaks out after Cinnabon video goes viral. Crystal Wilsey, the woman who went viral, was subsequently fired from Cinnabon after a video showed her harassing a Somali couple with racist comments, has spoken out on the social media post. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you racist, Wilsey wrote in a caption of a TikTok video. No, and I do understand that word gets bandied around as well in that community in and of itself, but you do need to take a little bit more care about what it is that you do. And say, if you're going to be on video, unless you are prepared to face the consequences, then no. There's freedom of association. Cinnabon does not have to be associated with you, and you did so in their uniform. And I do think that after Cinnabon washed their hands of everything, yes, the story needed to stop. And it largely did. If you want to speak your mind, then absolutely speak your mind. But freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences for that speech. Alright, that's enough of things that I hate. No more negativity here. Let's do some things that I like. Let's have some fun. I wanted to do this one here because it's a lot of fun. And the Bears versus Browns game, when it was cold as balls in northern Illinois, somebody took a video of himself pouring a Pepsi into a cup and it freezing instantly as he went because it was, well, cold as balls. And I like this kind of stuff, and it's kind of fun. The King of Random did this experiment too and showed and explained why this happens. And it's not necessarily the fact that the soda itself is freezing in the container, or freezing as it pours because you're taking it out of the container. It's the fact that you're taking the pressure off of it, which takes the temperature out of it even faster than just being out in the open air. So when you pull the pressure off of it, yes, it starts to drop its temperature even below what it is outside. So let's watch from the Bears versus Browns game.
Good morning, Bears fans.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Historic Soldier Field.
I'm sorry, that's not a Pepsi, that's an RC
Declare
Coke.
PA voice of your Chicago Bears.
Gosh.
Get ready to Bear Town.
Oh my God, that's fucking crazy. It's freezing as Bear down.
It's crazy, but it's still cool. So that was fun. And some other things that I like. Disney is planning a live-action villain movie starring Beauty and the Beast Gaston. IGN putting this with the caption of, "Be my guest." Well, be our guest. Be our guest. Put our service to the test. Tom Phillips reporting Gaston, the swole villain from Beauty and the Beast, will reportedly be the next Disney baddie to get a live-action movie treatment. Following the footsteps of Maleficent and Cruella de Vil, Deadline reports that development has begun on a Gaston standalone picture. You have my curiosity on this one, and I liked Beauty and the Beast when I was a kid. I did. I know it was supposed to be a girls' movie, but I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. The music was catchy. It told a good story. Work on the project is still in its early stages, but Disney is apparently very keen on the idea and planning a swashbuckling take. The project has screenwriter David Callahan attached, who previously worked on the Expendables franchise and has co-writing credits on Wonder Woman 1984, Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Lucasfilm producer Michelle Rejuan is also attached, following her work on Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, I'm not as interested anymore. No Disney Wars. I would still give it a chance, though, I think. I remember the outrage when the live-action Beauty and the Beast came out because, oh my god, Disney's going to try to corrupt our kids. They're going to put an openly gay character in this movie out of nowhere. And then we found out it was LaFleur, and we all remembered that, oh, he was gay the first time through. LaFleur, was it?
LaFleur.
Oh. Who am I thinking of LaFleur? Oh, wait, that was the Packers head coach. Yes. LeFou was gay. Even in the cartoon movie. He had a massive boner for Gaston. You can't pretend that he didn't. Screw it. I'm still interested. And another episode of J. Edgar Was Right. Those are becoming more and more common. Our friends over at NBR reporting Ford pulls the plug on the all-electric F-150 Lightning pickup truck. You know, just like I said that they were going to when the thing came out. From Camilla Dominowski. Ford Motor Company has ceased production of the all-electric F-150 Lightning, its flagship full-size electric pickup, and will focus instead on hybrids and the future line of smaller, cheaper EVs. Battery plants once intended to supply the Ford trucks will now be sending batteries to bolster the electric grid instead. Ford said the move is following customer demand and reflecting the reality that the all-electric Lightning was a money loser. I told you that 2 years ago. That they were going to lose money on this thing. And Ford concluded it always would be. Here's a bit of reality. There are always going to be a few people who are going to go buy it and say, it was cool. I got one because it's cool. And it's different. And it's not like everything else. But for practicality, it's not a practical vehicle, and the audience for electric vehicles is not into pickup trucks. The Cybertruck loses money. And that's the coolest vehicle on the road. But the market for electric vehicles is not focused on pickup trucks. Plain and simple. The people who want EVs and want a lot of them either want a compact or a comfortable midsize, something to just get around. Do I think there's going to be a successful electric pickup truck somewhere down the road? I absolutely do. Do I think it's going to be in this particular market when nobody has any money and the president is trying to puff up numbers that aren't a reality for other people? No, there's not a market for that right now. Plain and simple. I would say in about 2040, there's going to be a huge market for electric pickup trucks, our electric motor technology, our ability to keep them warm in the wintertime and keep the batteries going for longer is going to be increased. And all around, we're going to have a lot more knowledge about the electric vehicles at the time. I would say in 2040, there's going to be a massive market for electric pickup trucks. Right now, we just don't have the technology to do it. And the only people who are looking at this are people who have a bunch of money and want to have something quirky that not a lot of other people have. And maybe they're high on a little bit of smug while they're at it. But yes, I told you this was going to be a money loser. I told everybody this was going to be a money loser. An electric Maverick, by the way, makes more sense than an electric F-150. Because you still get some of the towing capacity, payload, but it's more geared towards the people who are looking for EVs. Because let's face it, it's an Escape with a box instead of a hatchback. Is all that it is. Let's do two more. Like I said, we're going to jump around on this list, so last two. From Futurism, the Washington Post deployed its disastrous AI-generated podcast even after internal tests showed it was failing miserably. Last week, when the Washington Post announced a new service that uses AI to generate podcasts, we immediately warned readers to brace for disaster. Just as expected, the service dubbed Your Personal Podcast turned out to be an error-laden disaster right from the jump. And anybody who's ever read the Google AI generated or read something from Grok already knew this was coming, because all they do is curate information off of previous Google searches and websites. Grok goes a little bit further because Grok integrates tweets into it, but you all knew this was going to be a disaster. Many staffers at the embattled newspaper are outraged at the AI inventing and misattributing quotes and misinterpreting basic facts, just as some of the extremely well-known and documented shortcomings of large language models. Look, AI is going to do a lot of things somewhere, again, in the 2035, 2040 range. We're not there yet, folks. We're not there. Alright, and the last one on things that I like comes to us all the way back from December 5th. DeSantis details phased approach to eliminate Florida property taxes with 2026 ballot requirement. Hooray! Less taxes. From Kristen Altus. Florida man Ron DeSantis detailed the next regulatory step for the state's effort to eliminate property taxes on primary residencies in Florida. People are being pinched across the economy on a lot of things, the Florida man said on Fox Business's Barney & Company on Friday. We're doing fine at the state level, but the local property taxes are hurting people. The reality is these local governments are overspent and people are paying more and more for that. And at some point, when is enough enough? Florida man reiterated Friday the goal is to eliminate property taxes completely for homesteading residents, a move that, if adopted, would make Florida the first state in the nation to eliminate property taxes on primary residencies, while also having no state income tax. And they have none or next to no sales tax too. I remember from the week that I was down there. If there is one, it's really low. Now, when Fox News puts the headline out, of course, they're leaving out key details, but, I mean, for the working class in Florida, this is going to be huge and massive and everything else, because it's on primary residencies. Now, if you own a business property, or you own a second home and you're a snowbird or something, yeah, they're going to hammer you on taxes still. That's still going to be a thing. I do think some of this is going to try to incentivize some of the snowbirds to just stay down there year-round. I don't know how well that's going to work out because they want to go see their grandkids and such, but I mean, no property taxes on primary property. That's a cause that I've been behind for a while because, I mean, you're essentially you're renting from the government. I would be, if we had to tax property in order to, fund our schools, roads, etc., I would be more open to a sales tax on your mortgage while you're paying that than a property tax. Because once you're done with your mortgage, you're free and clear. And you're not, quote, renting your property from the government anymore. I think that'd be a more feasible and more reasonable idea. And then, of course, that's only for your primary residence. If you've got a summer home somewhere out or something else like that, then yeah, you go and pay your taxes. And I think that would, honestly, it would fund the same as property taxes do, because it's, from what I understand, it's pretty rare that people go into their home and they ever come out without a mortgage, at least somewhere throughout it. It does happen. From what I understand, it's a relative rarity, because between refinances and lines of credit and everything else against the house, you keep refinancing, you take it out another 30 years, and the cycle repeats. But I don't know. If you're on the live chat right now or you're listening back on the replay, tell me what you think about that idea. What's up?
How would they fund, like fire department, police department? How would they fund public safety stuff?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Have the sales tax going on your mortgage payment while it's going, and then the people who actually do buckle down, be disciplined, and pay off their houses, they get the prize. But from what I understand, that's very, very few people. It's not a great idea. I literally just came up with that off the top of my head while I was talking about this. This is not something I thought about previously. So yeah, there's definitely some work that needs to be done with it, but I think that makes more sense than just a continual property tax throughout the rest of your life, even if your primary residence is paid off. And as always, I always point that out to your primary residence, because your investment property, if we got to have taxes, then yes, you're gaining wealth off of something and providing a service for someone else, so it's just like any other business. But with that, let's change the camera. Let's hit the transfer. Let's get out of here. 2.5 hours on 2 weeks of contemporary. It's a miracle. I've disciplined myself. It worked. All right, let's throw the outro music up and head out of here. There's the outro. Oh, by the way, I added another sounder to this before we hit the outro. You heard of the na-na-na-na one, but I did get the Back to the Future one too.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
I got this feeling over the next year we're going to be using that one a lot. All right, outro. Well, thanks everybody who came by and hung out throughout the day. Better audience than I usually get in the morning, so some things that have to get discussed in my household at this point on what's going to be best for the program and how to make things work. It's a discussion for us off air. For those of you who are here, I still appreciate you coming in and being here while we are on air. So thank you very much for that. We will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, more contemporary. It's been a great time. We got a lot of stuff done. And yeah, we've crammed 2 weeks worth of show into 1 week and still got in under the normally allotted time that we usually get to. So take care. Have a wonderful day. We will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.